Doug and Julie here with our 2021 Ford Mustang Mach-E electric vehicle. November 30th, 2024 marks the 3-year anniversary of owning our Mach-E, so in this video I wanted to give you an update. If you haven't already, check out episodes 8 and 13 for our 1-year and 2-year updates. In those videos, we cover some of the basics on the car and touch on some likes and dislikes. In this video, we'll focus mostly on what's been happening here in year 3. If you're new to the Mach-E files, here's a brief summary. Julie and I had been interested in trying an EV for a little while, so in July of 2021 we test drove a few for the first time and just fell in love with how they drive. And the one that stood out the most was the Ford Mustang Mach-E. It had excellent EV specs in the crossover utility package we were looking for. We also liked the Mustang styling, and it even had a bit of a premium feel, albeit also with a bit of a premium price. Still, we felt it was worth it, and we put in an order in mid-July. And waited, and waited, and waited. You may remember, coming out of the pandemic, dealers were behind on inventory, so ours didn't arrive until the end of November. The Mach-E replaced our 2012 Subaru Impreza, and effectively took the place of a new Subaru Forester we would have bought if we hadn't gone the EV route. But this should give you an idea of what we were looking for. We wanted a 4-door hatchback, wagon, crossover, whatever you want to call it. As our then main car, and now only car, this had to be a do-all vehicle to carry people and things whenever the needs arose, and that is exactly what the Mach-E has been doing. Julie and I work from home, so it doesn't technically get daily use, thus the relatively low mileage. In fact, about half of those miles have come from day trips and road trips, but it does make an occasional office trip as well as regular weekend errands. We don't have kids or pets, but the extra passenger space has been nice for visiting family and friends. And we've made full use of the hatch, whether just for groceries or for some more serious household projects. For the first year, we also had this 2009 Porsche Boxster, but in mid-2022 we decided to sell that, and the Mach-E has been our only car since. It's very unusual for us to only have one car. We've had as many as 5 at one time, but over the years our priorities have evolved, and we're perfectly happy with the situation we're in now. We do occasionally think about adding a second car, but since we really don't need it, we'll stick with just the Mach-E for the foreseeable future. So, what's been new for year 3? Probably the biggest news is, starting from the end of February 2024, we can now charge on the Tesla Supercharging network. Julie and I have had decent luck with the CCS fast charging network, but having access to the Tesla network is a real game changer. Not only are there more chargers, but they are also much more reliable. We recently took a 1,430-mile road trip to Northern California and used Tesla Superchargers almost exclusively, and every one of them worked perfectly. Check out episode 16 of the Mach-E files for that story. Or, for comparison, check out episode 10 on our 2023 road trip to understand how hit and miss the same road trip can be without it. To be able to charge at the Tesla Superchargers, we needed a software update and a physical plug adapter, as the Tesla J3400 plug isn't otherwise compatible with the CCS1 outlet in our Mach-E. For more on our adapter saga, check out episode 15 of the Mach-E files. But long story short, with the delays Ford had getting their free adapters out, we purchased third-party adapters from both A to Z and Lectron. At the time, both Ford and Tesla actually prohibited these adapters, but since Tesla has been having such a hard time keeping up with demand, Ford has actually partnered with Lectron to offer these as an option. By coincidence, we actually prefer the Lectron out of all of them. Evidently, we're onto something. It's a little stiff going in and out, but otherwise, awesome. I like this best, I think. Thank you. EVs are often touted as costing next to nothing for service and maintenance, and our Mach-E has lived up to this notion. For the first 2 years of ownership, we only had to take it to the dealership for a sticking parking brake, an update that couldn't be done over the air, and a 10,000-mile service, all of which cost us nothing. Here in the 3rd year, we had a pretty big deal recall to replace the high-voltage battery junction box, an unfortunately common fail point on some cars. But ours never failed, and the recall fix only took less than a day. I dropped it off first thing in the morning and picked it up before the end of the workday. More recently, we took the car in for the 20,000-mile service. Much like the 10,000-mile service, this is mostly a checkover of the whole car, along with the tire rotation and a new cabin air filter. But as we were nearing the end of our bumper-to-bumper warranty, we had them look into a couple of small squeaks and rattles. To do this, Dameron Ford wanted to keep the car for a few days to do some exploring, but otherwise this service was pretty painless. One more thing we discussed was replacing the 12-volt battery. Ours wasn't showing any sign of loss, but a dead 12-volt can be quite a headache, and I've read a few horror stories on the forums from people who've had them fail without warning. Considering how little we've spent on maintenance up to this point, I was prepared to spend the $400 to replace it as a precaution. But the dealership tested it and said it was still good. Plus, they ran a few software updates, one of which will do a better job of monitoring the 12 volt, so we should have a decent warning when it does decide to give up the ghost. So in the end, we decided not to make the change just yet. And how much did this service cost us? Well, the final bill was about $90, but we had some Ford points available, so after those were applied, we were charged all of $25, bringing our 3-year out-of-pocket total cost for service and maintenance to $25. For comparison, our 2012 Subaru Impreza, which we also bought new, had cost us almost $300 by this time in its ownership. Or how about 3 years on a used Boxster? Almost $4,800. This is why dealers don't want to sell EVs. If you're wondering about our big battery, we still haven't had that formally tested for degradation. On good days, we still see over 300 miles of range on the GOM. Not surprising, really, as despite its age, we haven't exactly piled on the miles yet, so our big battery is still like new. And that goes for the rest of the car as well. We're beginning to see some minor wear on the interior and a few more stone chips, and as we noted earlier, a few minor rattles. But overall, she cleans up nicely and still feels like a new car. We bought this car with the mindset of keeping it for a longer term than any of our past cars, and so far that's looking like it'll work out. And while we haven't piled on the miles, we're seeing more and more Mach E owners who are passing 100,000 miles with very positive reviews. While the Mach E hasn't really cost us anything in service and maintenance, we have spent a fair amount on the car otherwise. Check out episode 4 of the Mach E files for a breakdown on a handful of accessories we purchased in the first year of ownership. This year, we also added a sunshade for the big sunroof. That cost us just $46 and was a big help on our recent road trip. Then there are a few things that we've added that aren't necessarily Mach E specific, i.e. if we ever sell the Mach E, we'll keep these for our next EV. The 2 third-party adapters cost us about $180 each. Pretty spendy, especially when the one we got from Ford was free, but we like having a backup, or in this case, 2 backups. We also bought a new portable Level 2 EVSC that we keep in the frunk. Check out episode 14 for more on that. It's a very good unit, but now I'm thinking it might have been a waste of money. Time will tell. So, to wrap up this update, let's answer some common questions. Do we have any regrets? In short, no. Heck no. This EV journey has been wonderful. Okay, there's been a learning curve and a few glitches along the way, but overall we've loved it. Do we have any desire to get a new EV? Not really. There are many more options for EV buyers these days, most of them excellent choices with very good specs. But the Mach E still compares well against them all, and we haven't seen anything that would pull us away from what we have. Frankly, if something bad happened to our Mach E, replacing it with a new one would be at the top of the list. The 2025 model has some updates that fix a lot of the missing items of the current model. Things like a heat pump for better efficiency, but also ventilated seats that go with a better interior layout and updated infotainment. On this topic, one thing I would say is still missing from the Mach E is we would like to see some form of V2L, or vehicle to load. Basically, a way to plug appliances into the car. Power outages are pretty rare for us, but in early 2024 we did have a bad winter storm that knocked down trees and power lines. Many of our friends had no power for multiple days. Fortunately, ours was only out for about a day, but it still would have been nice to have a way to plug in a heater or even a refrigerator to keep our food fresh. EVs with V2L are effectively like having a portable power wall, and I think every manufacturer should have this option. And one final question, would we ever go back to a gas car? Again, in short, heck no. I suppose if we ever have room in our garage and our budget, I'd consider another fun car, and that could be gas-powered. But for our regular drivers, we're done with internal combustion. Our 2 big service appointments this year sent us home with loaners, one a Ford Edge and another a Ford Bronco Sport. And look, I don't want to shit on Ford's other products, but these were, well, let's just say we didn't care for them. At all. Most of that had to do with typical gas car things. They were comparably rough, noisy, and unresponsive. I'm sure being loaners meant that they were low-spec vehicles, which probably didn't help. But we've really been spoiled over the past 3 years with the smoothness and ease of use our Mach E has provided. We've often said it's one of the best cars we've ever owned, and we still stand by that statement. So, with year 3 in the books, what do we have to look forward to? At the very least, hopefully still very cheap and reliable transportation. We're out of the bumper-to-bumper warranty, but we still have a powertrain warranty for 2 more years or 60,000 miles, whichever comes first. And of course the big battery is covered for a full 8 years or 100,000 miles. I'm a little embarrassed to admit we did buy an extended warranty as well, just for a bit more peace of mind, as this is all still fairly new technology. But I'm thinking that may have been a waste of money, as we're starting to see a number of Mach E owners crossing the 100,000 mile mark with few issues to report. At our rate, it'll take us a long time to get there, but rest assured, we're very much looking forward to the journey ahead. As always, we'll report in here if anything interesting or exciting happens, good or bad. But until then, happy motoring!